Speaking of extremely wealthy people and corporations, that may not be the most sympathetic cases, but are instructive ones nonetheless. What's your counterpoint today, Ryan?
Taylor Swift. So yesterday, the Judiciary Committee convened the first hearing of the year where senators bombarded witnesses with Taylor Swift quotes.
To have a strong capitalist system, you have to have competition. You can't have too much consolidation, something that unfortunately for this country, as a ode to Taylor Swift, I will say, we know all too well.
The focus was on Live Nation's abusive monopoly practices. And here's Clyde Lawrence of Lawrence the Band laying some of that out.
There's literally not been a single time in our career when we've played at a Live Nation venue where we had any opportunity to not have Live Nation be the promoter or not have Ticketmaster be the ticketing company.
And the SeatGeek CEO was on hand to explain how all of this works.
Because Live Nation controls the most popular entertainers in the world, routes most of the large tours, operates the ticketing systems, and even owns many of the venues. This power over the entire live entertainment industry allows Live Nation to maintain its monopolistic influence over the primary ticketing market. As long as Live Nation remains both the dominant concert promoter and ticketer of major venues in the U.S., the industry will continue to lack competition and struggle.
There was also plenty of lying and real-time fact-checking. Here's Ted Cruz questioning the Live Nation president.
How about on the ticketing side? What percent of the market do y'all have?
I would estimate, depending on how you want to count what's in the market, between 50 and 60%. 50
and 60, and depending on how you count it, does anyone have a markedly different measure of that?
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
Senator. They have 87% of the ticketing contracts at the NBA and the NHL arenas. They have 93% of the ticketing contracts at the NFL stadiums.
And of course, there were more and more Taylor Swift lines.
I have to throw out, in deference to my daughter Eliza, one more Taylor Swift quote. Karma's a relaxing thought. Aren't you envious that for you it's not? That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
All right. So, and I'm not going to punish the audience with many more of them, but it was just all day long.
Yeah.
All day.
Amy Klobuchar jumped in on the fun.
Just right out of the gate.
Didn't Blumenthal?
Yeah. Of course, all of them. Yeah, every single one had to do it. Now, to start with, of course, this is excellent. Like Ticketmaster, Live Nation, destroy them. Fire them into the sun, break them up.
Break them up.
They're the worst. But what's amazing is, who agrees with that is big tech. So after the election, and I got this email that was sent out by NetChoice, which is the...
I got the same email. I immediately forwarded it to Rachel Bovard.
Yes. And so here's what NetChoice suggested to Congress right after the election, and this one that jumped out at you too. Congress and progressives like Amy Klobuchar are spending all this time going after tech leaders, including Meta, Google, Amazon, and Apple, which are far from monopolies. Instead, the government should use existing laws and resources to protect consumers and investigate Ticketmaster's anti-competitive practices in the concert marketplace. Like literally...
They want a piece of the pie!
Yes, literally telling Congress to go after Ticketmaster and not them.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for this too. So they elaborated on this argument yesterday in a statement kind of celebrating that Ticketmaster was under the gun. Basically, and it goes back to this consumer welfare standard, which is, for 40 years has been the way that we kind of do antitrust policy, which says that as long as a consumer is benefiting, like as long as you can't identify particular price increases, then it doesn't matter if they control 100% of the market and they're abusing everybody else in the market, their suppliers, their other customers, et cetera. As long as the consumer's doing okay, then it's fine. And so what big tech is saying is they are clearly in violation of antitrust law based on the consumer welfare standard. So go after them and don't change the laws, the antitrust laws, to reinterpret what it means to be a monopoly. Because what big tech has said is that, okay, Google is not a monopoly when it comes to search because it's free to do search. Google is not a monopoly when it comes to ad tech because it's free for the consumer to read these news outlets. Is it a problem that, hey, we're ripping off everybody in the back end and kind of restructuring the culture and the economy, doesn't matter because it doesn't violate the consumer welfare standard.
Don't worry about it.
Right, exactly. Don't worry about it. Listen to Taylor Swift. Go after Ticketmaster instead.
It's also, it doesn't technically violate the consumer welfare standard by their argument. In some ways, I think you can probably show how it does.
Right, you could.
Yeah,
right.
And I thought—
But it's harder.
Ted Cruz's question was really good there because that's one way these companies get around it is they create these BS calculations by their own metrics, and then when you ask about specific individual cases like the NHL, for instance, as the other witness brought up, you can see this is a joke. I think he said 87% of NHL stadium venue agreements. I mean, that's insane and definitely not good for consumers.
Right. So it might be true that at some Division III college basketball arenas, you can just walk up to the window and buy a ticket. Or, if you're going for a drag queen story hour at the local library, Ticketmaster, right? It's free, and it's not a Live Nation Ticketmaster event. You can just walk right in. So therefore, we only really control 50 to 60%. Your Thanksgiving dinner, for instance, didn't use Ticketmaster for that.
Yeah.
Right. So clearly, we're not a monopoly over events.
No, the point that you just made from the Net Choice email was just so funny because we didn't talk about this before at all. But I also thought it was a funny email. It's like they're saying, don't change the law. Right. The law works. Just go after the people who are violating the actual law. Take that, let's use this as the most clear-cut, instructive example about why the consumer welfare standard works to regulate monopolies. Leave us alone because we're not in violation of it. That's one thing that's always funny about government regulations is that a lot of the other big players really love to see it, right? Because they know it'll put the smaller guys out. They'll lobby for more regulation. Tim Carney has a great book called The Big Ripoff that you can read on this. They lobby over and over again for more regulation because it ultimately works out better for them. In this case, it's two big guys debating whether it's Ticketmaster or Facebook, Google, Meta, whatever it is, debating over this regulation. But it's so funny.
And frankly, they're not half wrong. They ought to crack down on Ticketmaster. Big Tech and Taylor Swift are both right. They should. But that's not a reason to just let Google off the hook.
Do you think they want to sell tickets on Facebook?
Oh, I'm sure they would actually. Yeah. I'm sure Google and Facebook would love to get into the ticket space business. You know what? I bet artists would love it if all of them were in the business.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Sagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.